I just want to welcome everybody to Startup Grind Albany. Really excited to have you all here. Seating is going to be interesting. This is a very interesting space that we have. But there are some chairs, so please do get comfortable. I just want to start off and just chat a little bit about what Startup Grind is and why I got involved with Startup Grind. Startup Grind is a global startup community. Started off in Silicon Valley in California 4 years ago. Derek Anderson is the founder of Startup Grind Albany. And basically it's designed to inspire, to connect, and to engage entrepreneurs. When I started in December, we were in 50 cities. I mean, we had 50 chapter directors, and we were in 25 countries. And right now, we are currently in 85 cities, and we are in 35 countries. So as you can see, we've experienced quite a bit of growth. Our goal is to be in about 174 countries by the end of 2014, and judging by how things are moving, it looks like it's going to work that way. I got involved with Startup Grind. Actually, I was working with a business coach last year, and one of my assignments, I was searching the web and came across this really interesting website, Startup Grind. I didn't know what it was, but the more I read, the values of the company really resonated with me, and not just to inspire and to connect and to educate, which are very meaningful to me, but really to create a space for entrepreneurs to be able to learn, depending on where you are on the spectrum. If you're a startup, if you're a wannabe-preneur, as I like to call it, you're still in the idea stage. Right on up through having a business, having a senior business, maybe you're trying to grow your business. Startup Grind offers something for everyone. And that's because we connect with startup founders as our guest that I'm going to talk to. I'm going to interview him in a little bit. Founders of companies. We also talk to educators. We talk to thought leaders, innovators, venture capitalists, investors, all around the idea of entrepreneurship. So it's been a great journey for me. I know that it's going to be an amazing thing. Derek, as I said, Derek Anderson is our founder, and I'm just really excited to have all of you here. We have a tradition in Startup Grind, and before we start every interview, we invite everyone to stand up, which won't be hard because some of you already are, and to help me give a rousing Startup Grind welcome to our guest for tonight, who is Antonio Civitella, CEO. Yeah, these chairs are kind of tricky. You gotta watch them.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
Yeah, you do.
That's right.
So I'm just real happy, real excited to have you here with us today. Had an opportunity to actually go down to Transfinders yesterday, and what an amazing building that is. I know that's a relatively new building, but want to look at a couple things in this time that we have together. But I have to start with what happened very recently, and that is that you were named Entrepreneur of the Year from Santa College's Stack Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and I know that's your school.
It is my school, and it was a great event. It's actually been an amazing week. Starts on Monday. It's my birthday.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. But, everyone gets that one day a year, and it's your birthday. So listen, you got to celebrate that one day. And of course, was invited to accept an award at Siena Monday night. And believe it or not, there's things that I didn't know about. My advisors, and they were talking about things that my mentor, really, the person I started working as an intern 25, 26 years ago, the things he asked about profiling a student that he was looking for, and I didn't realize all the different things he was asking for. And thank goodness it was actually me. So I had an opportunity, went there, and good things are happening, of course. So it was great. It was an amazing week, and local channel did another story yesterday morning, so went back there. And of course we're making jokes, like it sounds like we need to get yourself a little pass here so you could just park and not get tickets.
That's right.
But it felt great to go back to college there, really did.
And you have a really interesting story about how you started, and I know some of the folks here probably know that story, but as you know, we are taping for our global audience, so talk a little bit about, you were at Siena, you were an intern, and then what happened?
Well, really, as an intern, as a computer science major, I was looking for really an opportunity to learn on the job experience. So I went to one of my advisors and I asked, hey, I'd like to really go to these big brands, right, big name, General Electric, some big things that a lot of my friends were getting either interns or co-ops, really. And so he said, oh, I think I have another place you should go. not yet, you're just a sophomore, just hang on, hold on, I got this company should go, it's downtown Schenectady, you should go there. I'm like, well, I don't really want to go downtown Schenectady, there's nothing there, downtown Schenectady, I mean, what? I don't want to go there. I mean, I came from Schenectady, so I knew Schenectady, but it's not really where. Here it is, my family comes from Italy, we moved here, and I'm in Schenectady, and my dream is to stay at Schenectady. It makes no sense, right? So I've already made this big leap here, thousands of miles, I'm probably not going to want to stay in Schenectady.
Sure.
So it was an interesting story, so I came to Schenectady, and I really never left, and I really love what's going on in Schenectady. There's almost, this morning was a huge announcement in Schenectady, there's another tech company coming in, and I didn't realize that last year in Schenectady there was 57 announcements of different technology or really companies that came last year in Schenectady, which is amazing. So I'm really in a great community, and that's why I still love Schenectady.
And that was going to be a question, is why Schenectady, but I think you answered that question. When we were chatting, and some of the things that I've read about you when you started, and you were an intern with James Forth and Associates, and they had some very specific, some very particular desires for their intern that you were able to meet, which, if you just think about it logistically, maybe your average software engineer would not have, but they wanted some particular things.
Well, I didn't realize this, by the way, I found this out Monday night, that Jim Forth had a list of things he was looking for. Of course, he wanted someone that was at least average intelligence, right? I think at least could give me at least average. Get the basic out of the way. But he wanted someone that really wasn't just a software engineer, someone that really could think, solve problems. You know, we use the word entrepreneur a lot, and a few months ago I heard the word creator, inventor used more than entrepreneur, and that's what he wanted. He wants someone that, man, can you create, can you invent something, and on top of that, can you sell it, right? Because that's really the key, because we all have great ideas, but we can't sell it. We can't sell one person to buy this idea, well, what is it? You know, so he wanted someone that, you know, of course, once this client buys it, guess what? They have to use it, they have to train them, they have to support them. And now you set expectation, it's a cycle. Oh, what's next? So it's really a life cycle. So this man wanted an individual that, not just a software engineer, because they're everywhere. I wanted a software engineer that knows how to sell, could service clients, and do it all over again. And so I didn't realize that until Monday night. So I was very pleased to hear that. I didn't realize that's, I never think about that about myself. A lot of people ask me, you know, what makes you different? I don't know, I'm just a lucky guy, you know. But I realized that's what he was looking for, and I do believe that. I mean, as an owner of a company, I really have to understand what keeps our clients up at night, and I also have to understand what makes them tick, and really, are we selling in the right direction? Are we selling to the right people? There's people in my company who could sell a lot better than I can, but I have to be able to at least hold my own. So, good stuff.
Well, you know, as I was listening to you speak it, I was going to ask you some questions, and then we've kind of been in and out about Transfinders and about you personally and your childhood. But I wanted to talk to you, when we were chatting the other day, you have some specific ideas, and I'm sure most of the people in this room can attest to, you've got some specific ideas about what you're looking for in an employee, and now that I just heard you say that, it sounds as if that's what you're looking for. You're looking for people that have some certain characteristics. Talk about that.
You know, it's true. You know, I talk about a team, and it's such an important thing. And one of the things I think about is how an idea is, or something new that we're going to start, and how it's going to affect not just the employee, but their families, their wives, their husbands, their kids. Wow, you think about it. You're thinking you're going to just, let's do something, and what's the worst could happen? You're going to just have to cut 10% of the staff. 10% of the staff could be their kids, and so now I'm looking for employees that, wow, let's think about these things. I mean, if everyone's a risk taker, that might not be so good. Taking risk is great, but you got to calculate the risk, because the risk is, you know, maybe I did okay, maybe I saved some money, maybe I could live this, you know, a mistake I made. Well, not everybody can. And so therefore it affects people. So when I'm looking at employees, I'm looking at people that they think about, not just about themselves, but hey, if I make a mistake, or we're going the wrong direction, or I chanced it for the company, it's not just me, how many other people I affect? And those are the type of people I really attract. That's why I want somebody that's going to look out for the person next to them.
And you talked about family. The families of your employees are very important. That's something, this is my third interview, and each person that I've spoken to has talked about the importance of, it's not just about me, it's about the family, the people that I'm talking to. But let's talk about your family a little bit. You shared a little bit in the beginning. You said that your family came here from Italy, and family I know is important to you. Who was the person that influenced you the most as a child?
It was my father. My father was, didn't have I think maybe up to 6th grade education, but I tell you, he's probably one of the smartest men I've ever met. And, he didn't set the tone. My mom set the rules at the house. He really was a man that he made sure throughout my life, if I did well in school, I didn't do it for him. I did it for myself. And I didn't realize it. I would see some of my friends, they would have this report card at their house on the refrigerator with a magnet. And I'm looking at their grade. I think I did better than this. I should go home and do the same. Well, we had a refrigerator. I'm going to put my report card with a magnet. I'm going to do it. Right? Because most of my friends, their mom and dad did it. I'm going to do it myself. So I did it. And one day my father goes, "What's this?" I said, "What's house?" And they're showcasing the report card, which I did a lot better. And I'd come home and my father's saying, "What are you doing this for? You're not doing it for me. You're doing it for yourself, son." Now I realize what it meant. He's going to love me no matter what. Even if I got a D or a 2.0, whatever it was at that time, it didn't matter. He's going to love me. It's my father. It's my mom. But if I get a D, don't blame me, son, why you got the D. You got to get yourself the A. Because that's what's going to change your life. And that's really what I learned a lesson. Because education can change your life. It will.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those are one of my biggest mentors in my life is my father.
Was your father. And we're going to talk a little bit later. I almost said in the show, because we do broadcast, everything is a show.
It's a show.
We're going to talk a little bit more about, because I know that there's some, you talk about the wisdom of your dad. And we're going to chat about some things that you're going to be doing that are pretty exciting, just kind of utilizing your dad's wisdom. But you have, so we've got your dad, and then we have you, and now you have a little one as well. So there's kind of a generational thing that we're seeing. And do you find yourself, talk about how that is with your son as you're thinking about your dad.
My son is not even 4 yet, of course, so my wife keeps reminding me, he's not 4 yet, So, it's like, what do you mean? He can definitely start programming. And by the way, let me tell you, as I was younger, I would always hear someone that was older than me, "Oh man, these kids at 3 years old, they could use these devices easier than I can." And I finally realized, at 45, I finally realized that I think I've learned, and I had to forget, more technology than my son will ever have to learn. So I think that's where it is. You get to a certain point, like, I don't want to learn another way to bold a letter, right? I mean, just Control P was good, right? Highlight and Control P is fine, or let the B, right? So, but what I try to instill on my son is that you have to be logical. You got to think. As an older couple, wife and I really are not so worried about certain things. We don't have to worry about certain things. But I tell you, if I could influence my son half what my father did, very successful. I'll be very successful.
That's going to be
just half.
When did you know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Was that as a child? Was that something that you desired, or did you kind of come into that desire?
Entrepreneur is, like I said, is a word that I didn't really use in the past. I want to be an inventor. I want to create something. And I want to be successful. I wanted to buy things. I want to have something. my mom and dad come to this country with not too much money in their pocket. So how can I do better? How can I do something? And when you start realizing that, well, I can't really be an actor. I don't look that great on TV, so therefore that's going to work. And sports was not bad, you know. But you know, it's a lot of work. Wasn't that tall, you know. And so I realized, because really English was my second language, computers really was fascinating to me because, you know, I can mistype a word and the computer didn't really autocorrect me. Today they do, but back then there was no autocorrect feature. It would just keep going, and it was a good feeling. It was not intimidating, and so humans are a lot more intimidating than a computer can be, believe it or not. So, why do I want to be entrepreneurs more? I fell into it. I don't think an entrepreneur wakes up saying, you know, today I'm gonna start being an entrepreneur. I don't think so. I think it's everything around your life. I think it's your environment, it's your parents, it's your teacher, it's what happens to you. You know, I wish I could tell you, do these 3 steps and you're going to be automatic an entrepreneur.
We're done, stop.
I think it's it. But you know, but if I don't know if I want to give you that secret. There's 3 steps that you hold your left knee, pull your earlobe.
What were some of you messed me up with that.
Your earlobe?
Yes, the knee and the whole eye hand coordination thing is, you know, we didn't talk about that. You're going off script.
Sorry.
Looking at being a business owner, what surprised you about, you know, you've been an employee and now you're in your own business. So what would you say something that was surprising about being a business owner?
I tell you what surprised me is that if you don't have money to pay employees, guess who the first person doesn't get paid? You. And I didn't realize that. Like, wow. I can't necessarily ask somebody, you did great this week, but you know, we don't have enough money, so we're not going to pay you this week. Well, no, you can't do that. So I realized that if there's only so much food on this plate, guess what? I'm probably the last one to take some food off this plate. I didn't realize that. And I tell you, there was days that I would go home and see, well, I didn't have any food. And then realized that I could have really become this not good person, saying, hey, you're not working hard enough. Because last week I didn't get paid. But you got paid, so keep going. But I realized, well, that's going to just be a downward spiral. It's going to just get worse and worse. So I realized, hey, we got to do better next week. Let's do better. So I tried really hard to contain that, and I think I did a good job of that.
Okay. And what delights you about being a business owner?
It has to be how I see families. When I see family members, that's such a great feeling. And now, of course, in a community inside, really being part of a community that's growing in Schenectady, it's such a great feeling to see a recognition, seeing what Transfinder is doing, what I'm doing, or just stories I talk about my father that people actually would come back and say, hey, I used that quote, I said that. Oh, your father said, that was cool, I like that, it was a good idea. Those are such a good feeling.
I was gonna wait on the things about your father.
Okay.
We're just gonna go in. We're just,
Oh.
Papa is just wanting to burst out here. So
Papa.
you talked about some things I know you shared with me at the when you received your award, Entrepreneur of the Year. But there's something exciting that you're going to be breaking out. Tell us about.
Something new?
Business proverbs. I
am. That's very good. Actually, my father would have these crazy saying, right? Like if it was raining, there's always something, he would say something, but he would make these statements. And everyone would say, those are good, where'd you get that from? My father would say that. And by the way, most of the time they would be a lot better if you say in the time. It just sounds nice, right? Because there's definitely loss in, when you translate certain things, you definitely lose it in translation. But I tell you, there's some cool things. So really I'm trying to come up with 12 business proverbs I learned from my father. It really is, Papa is my dad. So I'm trying to, and when I went to Siena the other night, I launched my first 3. And I really squeezed a 4th one in there too, you know? But it was about drinking, and I don't know if that's a good proverb.
I was hoping you were going to tell that one. I had 2 that you mentioned that I wanted you to, is that the one about how do you know when you've had enough?
Yes.
Share that one.
Right, and I'm borderline if it's going to be one of the 12. Because someone asked me a great question. You know, you ask an entrepreneur, when do you give up? Oh, that's
Wait, let me ask. When do you give up? job as an entrepreneur?
Great question. Because I didn't know how to answer that. Because I'm thinking, give up. I don't even know what that means.
Right.
So therefore, it was just a great opportunity to throw one of my father's saying. Because there was always wine in my house. You know, I still actually make my own wine. And a lot of my friends adored my dad. I think sometimes I felt like that my friends thought that they were more their dad than mine. That this is my dad, we do it, right? So they always talk about drinking wine. They would say, and his name was Celeste, but his nickname was Rafael. And it's a whole story about that one, why it's called Rafael. So they'd say, Mr. Civitella, when do you know that you had enough to drink? Right? It's the same thing as, when do you know it's time to quit? So you would say, well, it's really easy. It's the last glass they'll get you. So just don't drink the last glass, and then you'll be fine. And of course, these guys are trying to think, wow, how do I know when's the last glass? And I go, you have to think about that one. You might take some time, but you'll figure it out. I still can't figure out when that last glass is. So I had to tell this guy that story, because I tell you, he stumped me. When do you know to give up? I don't know. I don't know when to give up.
Okay, one more. There's another one that you mentioned that I was like trying to write, and I was like, how does it go? It must sound better every time, because it was about the big rooster and the little rooster.
Ooh, right. And he was always talking about this. When the little rooster, so if you're on a farm, right, you would always hear the rooster crow, right, sing. But really, if you think about it, it's a male that's actually is singing, it's crowing. And it's really the big one, the king, the most dominant, sings first. Then all the little ones start singing after. But it's only really, so the story goes, when the little rooster sings or crows, the big one has already sung. Right? It's true. It's a true statement. What does that mean? Kids will repeat what mom and dad say. They really do. Employees repeat what their managers or directors say. And so really the whole concept is being, be careful. If you're in a leadership position, people are going to think whatever you do is the right way. And then sometimes you want that, but be careful, because they're going to follow you, and that's what happens. So being a leader is a just huge responsibility. And I always say it's tone at the top. So of course tone, you can throw as Tony at the top. But it really is, you set the tone. So the little rooster will always sing right after the big rooster sings. And so it's you got to be very careful. So you always say that.
That's a good one, I love that.
That was a good one. And then it does sound amazing at the time.
Say it.
Quando il piccolo gallo canta, il grande è già cantato.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely.
Sorry about that.
What you just said, yeah.
Right.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I want to talk about Transfinder some more, and kind of what you're saying. What I keep hearing you say, wherever we go in the interview, is that what you learned growing up from your father, you've woven that so very nicely into the culture of Transfinders. And I know that you have had an upward surge of, I think it's 14 years of just amazing record-breaking. How does one do that? You hear about companies that kind of go like this. How have you been able to, what do you attribute that to?
The team, I tell you, they understand what that means to continue winning. You know, let me tell you about the last Super Bowl, right? Was the Baltimore Ravens against the 49ers, right? San Francisco 49ers, right?
It's not in my head as if I had
Right.
looked.
Right, it was a famous Super Bowl. What happened? Because the lights went out, right? During the Super Bowl, the Baltimore Ravens were crushing San Francisco 49ers by 3 touchdowns, really killing them, right? And second half comes out, and it seems like it's a no-brainer. The lights go out, it gets dark, something happened, somebody tripped the fuse or something, right? Now what do? You're the coach. You're the coach of the 49ers, right? You're losing. You're going to probably lose. What do? You try and inspire your team in a way to say, come on, do you remember when you were 5 years old and you were watching the Super Bowl with your friends and you were saying, man, someday I could be there. Well, guess what? You're here and you're gonna lose. What are you doing? Right? So it's that, how do you inspire those people, right? So when you're down, it's so much easier to, come on, let's go. You gotta make it. And of course now you're the other coach. You go, we're 3 touchdowns up. Don't you stretch, don't move, don't hurt yourself, just relax, right? So really, if you think about what's going on, energy inside the person that's 3 touchdowns up, and they don't know what's going on, like, oh man, we're losing time, we want to win here. It's tough. So you have to figure out how to motivate this player that we're winning. Don't stretch, don't move anything. Figure out a way to, we're about to, guys, we're going to lose. Even though we're winning, we're going to lose. So, and by the way, the story, the 49ers almost won. At the last throw, if he caught the ball, the 49ers would have won the Super Bowl. It would have been one of the biggest comebacks ever. And I always say to myself, it's because that coach, that leader was able to say, come on, guys. So it's bringing some stories, and that's really what I always feel that people that work at Transfinder really understand what it means to win. It means that it's 14 years? Well, great. Well, we got to do 15 now. Then after 15, we'll go, come on, 15 is just not enough. Right? And I got to tell you, I don't even say that. Only other people would say it was 14 consecutive years. I really don't even say that. It's just a given. Right? But nothing's a given. You have to work hard.
Each and every time to make it
Each
happen.
time.
I'm thinking, like, where's the application? I'm ready to
There is.
It sounds is that Transfinder?
HR@transfinder.com. Really simple. That's an HR. 2 letters.
You talk often about we talked about, earlier we were speaking about being the creative piece of it. You don't like the entrepreneur term, but there is interwoven in the creative piece. And I know creativity as it relates to music, creativity as it relates to software engineer. You said something interesting about, about the folks at Transfinder.
Musicians.
Yeah.
Yes, I never knew this. There's a correlation. Playing the instrument and a software engineer. Majority of people I've met actually can play some instrument. There's something about being an artist. And this is really, software is such an abstract. You have no idea how I had to tell my parents. They ask me, well, tell them what you do. What am I going to tell my mom and dad what I do? How do you describe software? And, well, it's you need software to run hardware. Really? That doesn't even, right? Or a book. How do you, I think you could describe creating a book. But software is such a creative piece that is so hard to describe that's why I feel that we are artists. We are these people that think in an abstract way. So so there is a correlation.
That's interesting, because when I don't know if I read that or you said that to me the other day, and I was struck. I was thinking, computers and music. Okay, that's interesting. The way that comes together, and as you begin to explain it, it makes sense. You're awesome with terms that just kind of catch the ear. There's just a musicality. And you said something else the other day, and I was like, wait, I need you to explain it to me. Yellow blood.
Oh, yes. Yellow blood is an interesting term. And school bus industry, it's yellow. Right? Did you guys know that? Yellow? Well, there's a reason why that bus is yellow. It's meant to stand out. And there's a reason why it's somewhat ugly. Right? It's like, wow, can they make it a little bit nicer looking? Well, guess what? It's shaped in a certain way. It's 100% for safety. If there's an accident, the kids are going to be safe. If somehow that bus rolls off a bank, there's just so much metal on top that the kids are going to be safe. So people that are in this industry, and they talk about safety, they don't just say, yeah, I got to just make sure we get the kids from point A to point B. No.
Right.
We're not going to sacrifice a thing. We want to make sure that these kids And they are the precious cargo.
Sure.
We want to make sure that these kids get to and from school as safe as possible. And so these individuals that are in this industry we were taught to every single day, they really have yellow blood in them. And they really are. It's not red because they can't have one slip up. You know, you ask them what keeps them up at night, they would fear that if they have a driver that maybe is under the influence in driving these kids, or maybe has some not good record driving these kids, or there's an accident, or a kid goes missing, right? And I don't mean missing for life.
Sure.
2 hours might as well be lifetime. And for these individuals, that, where's the kid? We don't know. And mom and dad saying, hey, I was waiting for Billy. Where's Billy at?
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, they can't find Billy. Wow. And that's where they can't make one mistake.
Sure. And I think the way that we went into that conversation, just backing up a little bit, it was fascinating to know, you said that the U.S. actually has, at this point, we have the gold standard in terms of safety and why the buses are designed and why they look the way they did. But you said that Europe really was not feeling the U.S. in terms of...
10 years ago. And you know, we're definitely expanding now on a global aspect. And I've seen some of these buses that are beautiful looking buses. I've seen them a few years ago. And to myself, I'm never going to see these buses in the United States. You know why? Imagine this. It's all glass canopy over the bus. Beautiful panoramic view of the mountains. But if that bus ever rolls, it's not good. So therefore, this is where it is the golden standard. It's because nothing happened with that vehicle, but it happens once. That vehicle rolls and all that glass is going to go not good places. So what's going on in this country is that we're trying to find money to continue this type of services that no one else in the world has. But about 10 years ago, we would call different parts of the world, Europe and really all over the world, and we would actually get criticized. Like, why? You guys have a school bus? Why would you have a school bus? You know why you have a school bus? Your public transportation is not at the level that we have. We have the best public transportation. We put our 8-year-old kid in a public bus, but you don't, because you don't have a good public transportation. And I tell you, for a while, maybe I thought, maybe that's not true. Maybe our public transportation is not that good. So therefore, we do have these yellow buses. But then I realized, wait a minute. It's because we could afford it. We could afford to have this service for a 7-year-old kid that gets picked up by their house, in front of their house, gets on a bus, an extremely safe tank, really, gets to school, gets dropped off, and there's a whole process around how to make sure this kid is safe. And by the way, this is pre, all these different things happen in the world today. This happens, 20 years ago, that it was all about safety. When they drop off the kid and you're a certain age, only mom or dad could be by there. It can't just be anybody. Say, oh yeah, come with me. This happened many years ago. So I started realizing, now that we're calling on those parts of the world, they're saying, we're ready. We're ready for this. This is great. We think what the United States have done for all these years is what we want. And so they're ready for this. They're realizing that this is a safe means of transportation. It's the safest way. And it's not public transportation. It's really specific for kids. And we want to get these kids to school and educate them. They realize, wow, those Americans had it right the whole time. And so now there's a really big push to try to mimic what we're doing. I'm a little bit frustrated, as I think I said the other day, is that while other parts of the world are actually copying what we've done very well, we're now dismantling. Not because we don't want to do it anymore, we really can't afford it. And this is where we come in and we try to save some money for school district to continue this awesome service that the rest of the world is now trying to copy. So, and I told you a couple of days ago that if our clients save minimum 12 miles a day for 180 days, our basic package is paid for. Our product shouldn't cost anything. It should only save them money. But I also said something else. We want minimal impact on the community. We don't want to necessarily create a product that now it's so diverse if I'm told that my son is going to be picked up at 7 a.m. Then some other kid gets add on about 2 weeks from now, and then my 7 a.m. they send me, Mr. Civitella, yeah, now your son is 7:30. Then 2 weeks later, another kid gets added on, now 7:45. Then some kids get removed, now 6:45. Are you kidding me? So clearly, we can't affect the community that much. Minimal impact. So that's what we do.
Another thing you mentioned that I thought was rather interesting, that can be attributed to Transfinder's service is fleet maintenance is a concern for companies. And in terms of rotating the vehicles to make sure that their usability is working, and you were saying that that Transfinders can help with that as well.
Well, we can really. It's the you want to maximize this bus. There's actually in a yellow blood world, that bus needs to be used and reused. Which means if that bus just sits on a yard and it's not running, well, it's not a good thing. It means you're not really using it properly. And so the concept is use and reuse it, and make sure that you have the right capacity in there. If we think about flying, when was the last time we actually flew someplace and there was actually an empty seat? Doesn't happen anymore.
Sure.
And you know why? Because they figured out what is the right amount of people they should book. And that's what we push. We push on, let's figure out how to get attendance. Let's take attendance in a way that now we know that we can actually fill the bus a little bit extra, knowing that some kids, a certain percentage, they don't show up. But because we have maps and geographic, some of our clients take information on, well, maybe this part of the town, a lot more parents take them to school. So therefore, we actually could overload the bus by 50%, but this part of the town, not so much. Mom and Dad, maybe they don't have extra cars. So therefore, you could only overload by a certain percentage. So these are the type of things that we do on utilizing the vehicle.
Transfinder's making it happen.
Making it happen.
Okay, so let's talk about, I want to leave a little time for some questions, but I also know that you are a racing fan.
I am.
Talk about it.
Well, I've always loved any type of vehicles. I remember my mom will still tell you about, there was my elementary school in Italy was not that far. It was almost, we'd walk through our land, get to school, and she would say that I would get there, a few minutes, I'll come home, like, yeah, my belly stuff is hurting. So I would come home. I didn't want to go to school. You know why? Because my father had this beautiful tractor. Man, I love that thing.
Tractor?
Yeah, it was making noises, that smell of diesel, I loved that. And I just loved that sound. I loved that. And of course, growing up not really having that much money with cars, I'll always have to have the excuse, it's not the kind of car you drive, it's how you look stepping out of it. That's all I could say, right? And by the way, it's all I could say. I didn't have a nice car. So I always dreamed of having some nice cars. And Formula One racing is one of the best racing. The way these cars sound, and how you go from 200 miles an hour, downshift, take the hairpin turn at 30 miles an hour, then get back on the gas to go back at 200 miles an hour, and you're doing this within seconds. Wow. Just talking about it gets my heart pumping. So definitely. I've never went above the speed limit in my life.
A little disclaimer still across the screen right now. Concern over the thoughts of our guests belong to our guests.
This has been done with a close, road. The road was closed, right? Right. No.
Have you had an opportunity to drive one of the cars? The race cars on the track, not your own car?
No.
Is that something that you'd like to do?
I would love to do that. But I don't think it could fit. These individuals are so little, they're so small, they fit in these cars. Holy cow. There's just so much technology there. So much technology that's amazing. I love what's going on with Formula One.
When I think about and I had to research, I'll be honest with you.
I didn't know
I
you
really
did
know
that.
much about thanks to Google, love Google.
Google.
But I couldn't help but look at the Formula One and your love of the Formula One and the technology and the fastness, and just connected to what you're doing at Transfinders. and that continuity that you have, the speed, the better, faster, stronger that you're making. Do you see that connection coming too?
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if I went into the transportation industry because of the love of cars, but mainly it was education. It's really why I'm in this field. But there really is technology, and really when you look at this vehicle in which the school bus, and I describe it in really, not in a pretty way. I call that a tank, right? It's not that good looking. It's yellow, but really there's a lot of technology there. There really is tons of technology. There's potential to find out how well the vehicle is traveling. Are all the pistons firing?
Sure.
I mean, there's just so much information that this vehicle has, just like a Formula One race, that there's just so much data that's just traveling, and these individuals are racing, are not necessarily racing for, can I beat the 2 seconds? First place and for qualifying, first place and 10th place is within half a second. Hundreds of seconds difference. So therefore, everything is to be just so precise to hopefully be top 10. Right?
I think I was actually thinking more of, not so much I was thinking of the way, the Formula One, if I understand it correctly, there's a couple of days of practice runs, and then we go into the big league.
That's right.
And that, I was thinking more in terms of what you have been able to do through Transfinders, that you've been able, you had some years, you started off, you were an intern, and then you acquired the company, and then since that time, and it was 25 years.
That's right.
In 2013.
Oh, you're right.
So that's kind of how I was looking at it. I was thinking, it sort of has a connection
Little bit.
in somewhere in there.
Well, what's nice about Formula One is every 2 weeks is a different country. So that's actually exciting.
So you're taking
So
Transfinder.
Thursday and Friday, like you said, it's practice days. So you mingle with the crowd. Saturday you qualify. Sunday it's race day. And 2 weeks from now, you're in some other country. And you do this about 8 months a year. So that would be exciting to do.
To take the travel.
That's right.
Okay.
So from Brazil to Dubai to China, I mean, these guys are everywhere.
And what's neat about what you just said is that those are all cities that we have startup grind in. I didn't realize you were going to say that, but I'm like, yeah, we're there. We're in Dubai, we're in
Well,
China.
great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shanghai Formula One is coming up, so let's
So,
be there.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
So I did want to leave a little bit of time for questions. If anybody had any questions that they wanted to ask Tony about Transfinders, or those of you, not for the people that work at Transfinders, no. If just anything that you might want to know about Tony, about what's next. That's what I didn't ask you is, what's next product development wise? What's going on?
I knew you were going to ask me this. Well, let me tell you.
Tell me.
When I was 16 years old, I always wanted to work. Because work never really hurt anybody. And I worked for a supermarket, stocking shelves, right? And so, first or second day of the job, there's a bunch of, 16 years old, and there's some kids are maybe 19, 20, they're a little bit older. I'm the youngest guy there, right? So we're stocking shelves and we're trying to get things fit and all nice and neat. And one of the guys goes, Tony, we need the left-handed shelf extender. I go, well, what is that? When you paying attention, go get the left-handed shelf extender. Like, I don't know what that is. Go in the back room right now and go get it. I'm like, all right, 3 days on the job, I'm going, looking in the stock room, looking for this left-handed shelf extender, right? I'm like, where the heck is this? The manager goes, what are you doing? So I tell the manager, I'm looking for the left-handed shelf extender. He goes, what? Get back in the floor. There's no such thing. So I tell you, I'm going to finally invent the left-handed
I tried to buy one of those.
I'm finally going to do it. It's finally going to come out. But you're going to hear very soon. We're going to have some great products. You'll hear about it.
That sounds awesome. Folks, anyone with questions, a burning question? Yes?
What would you say was the driving force behind your decision to go from a developer to actually purchase the company, and kind of how did you go through that process, like financing it? And it's really interesting to me.
Very good. As a developer, I always had a vision of where the product should go. And if you don't own the company, you have to convince somebody, well, we should take this product this way. and it's only going to go so far. Then you realize you put in all this effort, and the owner could just say, this is good, we're not going to do this anymore. And another thing my father would always say is that in a business partnership should always be an odd number of people. Did I tell you this one?
No, you didn't tell me that one.
And 3's too many.
I love it.
You know what he meant? You know what he meant? If there's going to be partnership, one has to be the leader, and you have to accept that. That's the leader, and that's the person that makes the decision. And if you want to make the decision, you have to figure out how to become that leader, because that's how you now change what you want to do. Hey, all the risk is in your hands. How did I finance it? I bootstrapped everything. I saved everything possible. I figured out how to do it. I tried to, hey, I didn't go to these Formula 1 races until, it's extremely expensive to go to these Formula 1. You know, they think that, you're just buying a t-shirt for $200, that's cool, right? Like, well, if you don't get it afford bottled water. So, but you figure it out. You save money, and you have to think, there's gonna be a payday someday. Someday it's gonna pay off. But meanwhile, if you're not doing it because you love it, then get out of there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Anyone else? Are there any questions?
Tony, there was a pivotal point before you got into school bus routing when you went to Fourth and Associates, right? It wasn't always school bus routing.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that pivotal point?
Well, for a month and a half of my job, I really was hired to work on this product called Finder. It was a home health system that really provided transportation and logistics for home care agencies to help really patients at home. So, right, nurses would travel to your house. It was a great idea, but technology wasn't there. And we had our one client that I was hired to make sure that we take care of this client, and we developed the product based on what he needed. And by the way, they bought a PC just for this product. They didn't have a PC. A month and a half. When I showed up at the job, over a month and a half before, there were a bunch of programmers, and apparently they all left. I'm like, wow, I should have saw a sign, right? They'll leave. I'm like, all right, this is cool. I'm the only one at this company programming, so I'm gonna just give it all I can. A month and a half into my job, I get a phone call, or really Jim Ford gets a phone call. Come over here and remove this product off this computer that I bought for your product. So it's my computer, I'm keeping this, but get rid of your product. He was testing it for us. So a month and a half into my job, we go over there and we uninstall the product. Or really, I don't know what we did, we just got rid of it, right? I don't think there's an uninstall. Format C, I don't know if there's no. Format the C drive, that would definitely take care of the problem.
Uninstall.
Like you got it. Still works today. And I remember driving back from that place, and I'm like, wow, there goes my job. Now, a month and a half, that was good. You know, it was great while it lasted. And I remember Jim Ford talking about this product called Transfinder for school bus routing, and I convinced him, like, hey, give me a shot. Let me resurrect that idea. Let's work on that. And so we did. He gave me a shot, and we worked on this product called Transfinder for school busing. And of course, when I bought the company in 2000, I renamed the company to Transfinder. It just made sense. And then, of course, rebranded all the other products in our flagship product that a lot of us still call it Transfinder, believe it or not. Even new employees will call it Transfinder, but somehow it still sticks. But it's really called Routefinder. That's the product. So that's what happened.
Thank you.
And I know, you also are branching out, you expanded recently into adult care. the adult
We are.
market.
We think that's really, as a logistic company, we really wanted to work on all different routing aspects. There really is not that much different between transporting students and transporting adults, or really people that need care. So they were really expanding that, because there's a same, there's that same motivation behind there. The client, the user that's behind that screen, maybe doesn't have yellow blood, will have different kind of blood, because it's the same concept, right? Their goal is to make sure that they're transporting their precious cargo. And so it just makes sense that we're moving that direction. But we obviously want to stay in education for life.
Fantastic, fantastic. Anyone else? Well,
Over here.
hi there, I'm sorry, how are you?
No, good, how are you?
Good.
Your background was primarily in development to start with, but what resources did you look to along the way to actually develop your entrepreneurial skills?
I listen to everybody. If I'm even at the supermarket, there's an opportunity to actually learn things right there. Talk about customer service, and in customer service, we all know what good and bad service is. There's no question about it. That's something, the easiest thing. Let's face it, you're at the toll booth, and you're paying your tolls if you don't have a pass. You know if that person is treating you nice or not. When you go into the supermarket and you're getting your cold cuts, you know if they're treating you nice or not. Really. So therefore, there's certain things about, wow, I want to make sure if I get a bad experience, let's figure out how not to make that same mistakes. So you really have to learn those things. And that's something that I always say you have to learn with your eyes and ears, of course. But that's a big aspect, because there's a lot of things out there that you learn from people. And this is one of my things I said about my father. They talked about if you see or hear about a house on fire, run home with a bucket of water. Right? Right? So if you hear or see someone's house on fire, you're supposed to run home with a bucket to your house with a bucket of water. It means, don't think, that's not going to happen to me. No, not me. Nah, that's not going to happen to me. No, it can happen to you. So, but you have to learn. Learn from these people's mistakes and don't do it. So that's what you're looking for, not what to do, you're also looking for things not to do. And so those are the things that you learn all the time. And talking to people, a certain event that inspires me, anything. But I'm not unique. That happens to all of us, right? But you have to have that. If you're going to the supermarket and say, I don't want to see anybody, I'm just putting on my sweatpants. Guess what? That's when you're going to see somebody. It's true, right?
It's true.
So go there and go, I'm going to see somebody, I'm going to say hello. I know I'm having a bad day, but why do I need to be miserable right now? And that's when people, they see you, and that's when you learn. Our job is just to be sponges for life.
I like that.
A follow-up to that kind of.
Sure.
We've been talking a lot about your successes. Now I'm interested, what's your biggest mistake that you learned from?
Mistake. I gotta tell you, I've definitely done many of those things. They're just not top of mind. It's something that many of those, there's some decisions I've made. I thought this is going to be a great market, or this is going to be a great hire. And they weren't so great. And there's going to be some things. Or, I made some wrong decisions myself. Let's invest in that. And it's a risk. They're not top of mind. A lot of people ask me, what does it mean? You don't make mistakes? No, you know what? They're just not, I don't have that list of mistakes in front of me. I know that successes, and I know them right away. But when I start looking at it, wow, yeah, that wasn't that one. Right? But I really have to think about it. What's
the
that?
fact that you put your mistakes behind you is part of why you're successful?
That maybe.
Out of sight, out of mind?
You're right. I mean, I don't forget it. They're still there. And every once in a while, in the middle of nowhere, I do a little giggle right there. It's like, yeah, that's going to leave a mark. So, but it's true. There's going to be mistakes, and it's okay. It's all right. We are humans, right?
We absolutely are. And it is, I like to say it is what it is until it's something else.
That's great.
So, okay, I think that we've done what we have come here to do, and I just want to thank you. You are awesome. You are so awesome. This has been a lot of fun, and I knew it was going to be. I knew we were going to have a blast. So I want to obviously thank everyone that's here, everyone that came. If you want to stay in touch with what we're doing, make sure that we have your contact information, leave a card or leave your email address. And I'd love to put you on our newsletter list for upcoming events. Next month, we are going to have as our guest Walter Barizanak, who is co-founder and former president of Fortitech. And as most of you know or may know, he was able to, another homegrown Schenectady company, and he was able to build that company up and sold it last year for $634 billion, that's a B. I like to say that, billion, that's a B. And I know it was one of the largest sales that we had in our area for like 6 or 7 years. So he's going to be here, here at the Beehive again on April the 24th, same bad time, same bad station. Invite you to come. I'd love to have you to come and hang out with us, and all of you are welcome to come. In May, Startup Grind is actually doing something very interesting and very amazing. We are powered by Google for Entrepreneurs, which means that they underwrite as an organization the things that we do. They partner up with different global organizations, and they have an initiative going on right now called #40Forward. That's hashtag the number 40 and the word forward. And what that is about is to increase the number of female entrepreneurs, particularly in the tech field, but also just across the board by 25% in 2014. And so what that means for our community, we're one of that 40 stands for the 40 global communities that Google for Entrepreneurs has hooked up with. And so in Startup Grind, we have agreed that across our global network, so that's 85 chapters, we are each going to have a female entrepreneur. And I'm excited that we actually have our May guest in the room. Christiane Smith from Design Smith Studio is going to be sharing with us, and that's going to be in May. We're still trying to fine-tune that date and the location, but just as I said, make sure that we have your information before you go, and we will be sure to get that to you. We try and get the information out, but I would be remiss if not thanking Tracy Metzger. I don't think Tracy's still here. I think she slipped out, but this is her space. This is Albany Beehive. There are 3 beehives. There's one, the original beehive is in Beacon, there's one in Kingston, and there is this beehive, and it is a co-working space. It looks very different during the day. Obviously, we switch some things around, but it's kind of neat. She's got some permanent people that work here, about 6, and then also you can rent a conference room, you can rent a desk, you can rent a printer, whatever you need. So really trying to help that local ecosystem, that entrepreneurial ecosystem. I wanted to say hello to Mayor McCarty. I know that you're here, so we're just pleased to have you here. And I have one of the most amazing teams. Absolutely, my community manager is Ed Harris. I was trying to look invisible over there. And Justin Tibbetts is one of the most amazing photographers. Justin Tibbetts Photography. And newest members of our team is our videography team, and that's Claudio Gomez and Stefan Wells. So just really excited to have our 3rd Startup Grind Albany under our belt. I invite you all to stay tuned. Thanks for coming out, and it is a wrap. Thanks for